Rubio could raise the stakes for Cuba if he becomes Secretary of State. For more than 60 years, Cuba has buckled under U.S. economic sanctions and its own government's missteps. Life on the communist-run island could soon become even more grueling. One of the Cuban government's most formidable adversaries, Senator Marco Rubio, is set to become Secretary of State under Donald Trump, something that does not bode well for the already flatlining Cuban economy. A son of Cuban exiles, Rubio has long made it his mission to ramp up the US trade embargo on Cuba. If confirmed, as is widely expected, Rubio will be perfectly situated to further tighten the screws on Cuba, perhaps to the island's breaking point. He has reached the pinnacle of power and position in the U.S. government that he has never held before, and he is going to be putting it to Cuba to prove his reputation as an extremist hardliner on Cuba, said Peter Kornbluh, co-author of Back Channel to Cuba, The Hidden History of Secret Negotiations Between Washington and Havana. It could really be the final nail in what is already a very deep grave for Cuba, Kornbluh told CNN. If confirmed, Secretary of State Rubio will face far more pressing issues like Russia's war in Ukraine, conflict in the Middle East, and countering growing Chinese influence in the world, particularly in Latin America. But Cuba has been central to Rubio's long climb from city commissioner in West Miami to state representative to U.S. senator to Republican presidential candidate to now being selected for Secretary of State. The second paragraph of Rubio's Senate bio says he first entered government in large part because of his grandfather who saw his homeland destroyed by communism. The decades-old joke in Rubio's hometown of Miami, a refuge for exiles who fled socialist regimes in Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, is that it is the only city in the United States with its own foreign policy. That quip no longer seems so facetious as a son of exiles who fled their homeland prepares to become America's top diplomat. As Secretary of State, Rubio could run point on devising additional economic sanctions on Cuba, increasing funding for dissidents and pro-democracy programs that Havana considers tantamount to regime change, and further restricting U.S. travel to Cuba. Under the Biden administration, the U.S. again expanded flights to destinations across the island, opened up online payment systems to Cuban entrepreneurs, and relaxed restrictions on U.S. citizens traveling to the island. Rubio, though, has been a fierce critic of Americans visiting Cuba, saying in 2013, Cuba is not a zoo where you pay an admission ticket and you go in, and you get to watch people living in cages to see how they are suffering. You've left thousands of dollars in the hands of a government that uses that money to control these people that you feel sorry for. Two organizers of so-called people-to-people trips that organize trips for us citizens to Cuba declined to comment to CNN about what Rubio as Secretary of State could mean for their businesses, they said, because of the potential repercussions.